The sleek council vessel emerged from the dark void beyond Mars, its crystalline hull catching the light of Earth's sun. The ship dwarfed the largest human space stations, gliding with impossible grace for something so massive. Earth's telescopes had tracked its approach for weeks, yet nothing prepared humanity for the moment the vessel took position in orbit. Ambassador Juan Park stood at the United Nations platform in New York, her hand steady despite the gravity of the moment. At 53, she had spent decades in diplomatic service, but never imagined representing all of humanity to extraterrestrial visitors. The chamber around her buzzed with tension as world leaders from every nation waited, united for perhaps the first time in human history. Their beginning transmission, whispered in aid, placing a small earpiece in Juwan's hand. The massive screen at the front of the chamber flickered to life. The Galactic Council's emissary appeared, tall and silvery-skinned, with 4 elegant limbs. Its face held no features recognizable as a mouth, yet somehow its voice filled the chamber clearly. Humans of Earth, we welcome you to the greater community of sentient beings. The alien spoke through a translation device, its words perfectly matched to Earth's most widely spoken languages simultaneously. We have watched your development with interest. Gasps rippled through the assembly. President Handul of the United Republic stood first, followed by other world leaders, in a standing ovation. But not everyone shared their enthusiasm. Admiral Taewoo Kim observed from the shadows at the back of the chamber, noting the subtle condescension beneath the alien's words. At 47, the admiral had risen through military ranks by noticing details others missed. While diplomats celebrated around him, he quietly cataloged everything about the visitors, their technology, their physiology, their apparent weaknesses. The development of faster-than-light travel is often a threshold for contact. The emissary continued. Your recent success with the Zhang Nakamura drive, though primitive by our standards, signals your readiness. Taewoo's eyes narrowed. Earth's first successful FTL test had been conducted in utmost secrecy just 3 months ago. How did they know? The Council offers protection and guidance to developing species, the emissary continued. Your world shows great promise, though you are still young among the stars. Young, primitive, developing. Taewoo noted each dismissive term while the diplomats around him beamed with pride at being acknowledged at all. 2 days later, the first meeting took place aboard the Council vessel. Juwan led a delegation of 12 humans, including scientists, linguists, and cultural experts. The ship's interior defied human understanding. Corridors that seemed to bend reality, rooms that expanded beyond possible dimensions, materials that responded to thought. The Council includes 27 space-faring civilizations, explained their guide, a being called Nestor with flowing blue appendages. Some members achieved interstellar travel millennia ago. Others, like yourselves, are newer additions. How many species are at our development level? Asked Juwan carefully. Currently, 17 worlds enjoy protected status, Nestor replied. The Council oversees their growth, ensures they develop along peaceful lines, and protects them from less benevolent forces in the galaxy. And what does this protection require from Earth? Juwan asked. Merely acceptance of guidance, Nestor said, gesturing with a ripple of blue tendrils. There are protocols for safe development, technologies that require oversight, knowledge that comes with responsibility. Back on Earth, debates rage. Most nations eagerly embraced the Council's offer. A few expressed reservations. They speak of protection, but I hear the language of control, Admiral Taewoo told the National Security Council. Throughout human history, whenever an advanced power offered protection to a less developed one, it ended in exploitation. You're being paranoid, Admiral, replied the Science Minister. They've already shared medical technology that could eliminate cancer. What possible reason would being so advanced have to exploit us? I don't know yet, Taewoo admitted, but I intend to find out before we surrender our independence. Despite such concerns, Earth's governments voted overwhelmingly to accept the Council's offer of protected status. The agreement was signed in a grand ceremony broadcast worldwide, with Juwan representing Earth alongside the Council emissary. A historic day for humanity, Juwan declared, beaming at the cameras. Today we join a community of stars. 6 months later, the first exchange of technologies began. Medical advances cured diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Agricultural improvements ended food shortages in developing nations. Clean energy systems reduced pollution dramatically. Juwan became the public face of this new relationship, traveling the world to showcase the benefits of Council membership. "We stand at the dawn of Earth's golden age," she told crowds in Seoul. "For the first time in human history, we face no existential threats, no resource limitations, no technological barriers to progress." But while Juwan became the Council's greatest human advocate, Taewoo remained unconvinced. With authorization from a small coalition of cautious nations, he established a classified research division far beneath the lunar surface, just in case. The facility, codenamed Sentinel, operated in complete radio silence. The 100 scientists and engineers stationed there had one mission: understand the Council's technology without Council oversight. Their first discovery proved troubling. The medical nanites they provided contained transmission capabilities, reported Dr. Minju, Sentinel's lead scientist. They appear to be collecting data on human physiology and sending it somewhere. "Can you determine where?" asked Taewoo. "Not yet," she replied. "But we've also found something else. The supposedly unlimited energy cells they provided. They have built-in limitations. They're designed to stop functioning if used in certain configurations, particularly weapon systems." Taewoo nodded grimly. "Continue your analysis and accelerate the independent development program. If my suspicions are correct, we may need alternatives to their technology sooner than expected." On Earth, Juwan prepared for her first trip to the Council homeworld. She would be the first human to travel beyond the solar system, accompanied by a small delegation of scientists and diplomats. The night before departure, she received an unexpected visitor in her Tokyo apartment. "Admiral," she said, surprised to find Taewoo at her door. "I didn't realize you were in Japan." "I needed to speak with you privately," he said, away from potential monitoring. Juwan laughed. "You still don't trust them?" "After everything they've done for us, I trust evidence," he replied, handing her a small data device. "Before you commit Earth further, please review this information. The Council's gifts contain hidden limitations and surveillance capabilities. They're not empowering us. They're controlling our development." Juwan stared at the device, then handed it back. "I've heard your theories before, Admiral, but I've seen their world through virtual tours. Their civilization is thousands of years beyond ours. They have no reason to deceive us." "Power is always a reason," Taewoo said quietly. "Just promise me you'll keep your eyes open out there. Look beyond what they want you to see." Juwan's expression softened. "I'm a diplomat, Taewoo. Observation is my specialty." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "But I appreciate your concern. We both want what's best for Earth. We just see different paths." As Juwan prepared for humanity's greatest journey into the cosmos, Taewoo returned to his lunar base, where prototype ships were taking form in secret underground hangars. Vessels built with human ingenuity rather than Council designs. "We pray they're truly benevolent," he told his staff as they watched construction through reinforced windows. "But history teaches us to prepare for the alternative. Earth's future may depend on it." Professor Hyunjin Lee's eyes burned from staring at screens for 18 hours straight. His small team of researchers worked in silence in the underground lab, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of displays. 5 years had passed since Earth's first contact with the Galactic Council, and most of humanity celebrated the technological gifts that had transformed life on the planet. But not Hyunjin. Not anymore. He adjusted the parameters on his molecular scanner, watching as the three-dimensional model of the Council's medical nanites rotated on his screen. The nanites had cured cancer, extended human lifespans, and repaired genetic defects. They were hailed as miraculous. Until now. There, he whispered, highlighting a particular sequence. Run the simulation again. His assistant, Dr. Minna, entered the commands. They watched as the virtual nanites interacted with human stem cells. Everything seemed normal until the cells attempted to develop along certain pathways. Then the nanites activated a previously hidden mechanism. They're not just healing us, Hyunjin said, removing his glasses with shaking hands. They're limiting us, controlling our evolution. 3 days later, an emergency meeting convened deep beneath the lunar surface. Admiral Tae-woo Kim sat at the head of the table, his face grim as Professor Hyunjin presented his findings to Earth's Shadow Defense Council, representatives from the few nations that maintain secret caution about the Council. The Council's medical technology contains biological limiters, Hyunjin told the assembled officials, pointing to complex diagrams. They aren't helping us advance. They're ensuring we can't surpass certain boundaries. What kind of boundaries? Asked India's defense minister. Cognitive enhancement, cellular regeneration beyond a certain point, adaptive immunity to radiation, precisely the modifications that would help humans thrive in deep space or survive combat with advanced species. Hyunjin's voice trembled. It's like putting a ceiling on human potential. Murmurs filled the room. Admiral Tae-woo remained silent, his suspicions finally confirmed after years of vigilance. We need to take this to the UN immediately, urged Brazil's representative. And tell them what? Countered Tae-woo. That the saviors of humanity are actually controlling us. Without Ambassador Park's support, we'll be dismissed as paranoid. Ambassador Juwon Park had become the face of Earth Council relations. After her journey to the Council homeworld 2 years earlier, she had returned more convinced than ever of their benevolence. The public adored her, and world governments trusted her judgment implicitly. Then we must convince the ambassador, said Hyunjin simply. Aboard the orbiting diplomatic station Unity, Juwon finished another long day of negotiations. The council representatives had departed hours ago, leaving her alone in her office overlooking Earth. At 58, she felt healthier than she had at 40, thanks to council medical treatments. She gathered her files, preparing to return to her quarters when a soft chime indicated an unscheduled visitor. Enter, she called, expecting one of her staff. Instead, a slender council being slipped through the door. Juwon recognized Reth, a junior diplomat from a species called the Nath. Unlike most council representatives, Reth had what humans might call a face. 2 large, expressive eyes above a small mouth-like opening. Ambassador Park, Reth said, voice barely above a whisper. I must speak with you, alone, without recording. Juwon raised an eyebrow, but activated the privacy field on her desk. What's so urgent, Reth? The alien's eyes darted nervously. I risk everything by coming here. My position, possibly my life. You're safe with me, Juwon assured, suddenly concerned. No one is safe, Reth replied. I've accessed archives I shouldn't have. Seen the truth about the Council's protection program. Something cold settled in Juwon's stomach. What truth? Reth moved closer, voice dropping further. Your species was never meant to be equal. None of the protected worlds are. I've seen the archives. 17 other worlds before yours. All controlled, all stagnant, all believing they were protected when they were actually caged. Juwon shook her head. That can't be true. I've seen the Council worlds, the prosperity. You've seen what they wanted you to see. Reth interrupted. The Council member species fear competition. New species are either absorbed and limited or, if they resist, eliminated. Why are you telling me this? Juwon asked, her diplomatic instincts still skeptical despite a growing unease. Because my species was once like yours. We believe the Council saved us from self-destruction. Only centuries later did we learn the truth, that we were deliberately stunted, turned into servants rather than equals. Reth's eyes dimmed. It's too late for us, but not for Earth. The alien pressed a small crystal into Juwan's hand. Evidence, council communications, hidden protocols in your gifts, their plans for containing human expansion. Before Juwan could respond, Reth slipped away, leaving her alone with the crystal and her crumbling certainties. 2 days later, Admiral Tewu received an encrypted message requesting a private meeting. When Juwan arrived at the lunar base, her face showed the strain of sleepless nights and shattered beliefs. "You were right," she said simply, placing Reth's crystal on the table between them. "I verified some of this independently. The rest, I need your help to confirm." Tewu nodded, experiencing no satisfaction in his vindication. "Professor Hyunjin has been examining their technology. His findings align with this information." "How bad is it?" Juwan asked. "Worse than we suspected," Tewu replied, leading her deeper into the facility. They entered a secure laboratory where Hyunjin and his team had disassembled various council devices, the energy cells that power our new cities. Hyunjin pointed to components under microscopes. "They contain remote shutdown capabilities, the communication networks, designed to monitor and filter information. And these," he gestured to a table of small metallic objects, "were embedded in the agricultural enhancement systems, surveillance devices recording everything from crop yields to private conversations." Juwan sank into a chair, the weight of betrayal heavy on her shoulders. "I brought them to Earth. I vouched for them. I convinced the world to trust them." "You weren't alone," Tewu said quietly. "They fooled almost everyone." "What do we do now?" she asked. Tewu pressed a button, and the wall slid away to reveal a massive viewing window. Below stretched an enormous underground hangar where workers swarmed around sleek spacecraft, unlike any Earth had officially developed. "While you've been negotiating, we've been preparing," Tewu explained. "These ships use principles we reverse-engineered, but with our own innovations. No council limitations, no tracking systems, true Earth technology." Juwan stared at the vessels in awe. "How many?" 50 completed. Another 100 under construction in similar facilities around the solar system. Not enough to challenge the council directly, but enough to defend ourselves if necessary. "They think we're predictable," he told the officers gathering around them. "That will be their mistake." Juwan turned the crystal in her hand, thinking of Reth and the risk the alien had taken. "We need to be careful. If the council suspects we've discovered their deception." "Agreed," Tewu nodded. "You must return to your position, maintain appearances while we prepare. Earth's greatest advantage right now is that they don't believe we're capable of seeing through their facade." As Juwan prepared to depart, Hyunjin approached with a small device. "This will clear your system of their nanites," he explained. "They won't be able to track your vital signs or influence your biochemistry anymore." Juwan took the device, her hand steady despite everything she had learned. "All these years, I thought I was building humanity's future among the stars." Her eyes met Tewu's with newfound resolve. "Instead, I was helping construct our cage." "Not anymore," Tewu replied. "Now you're helping us break free." The council's ultimatum came without warning. Juwan Park was in her office aboard the diplomatic station Harmony when the transmission arrived. The station orbited Earth at a safe distance, serving as neutral ground for meetings between humans and council representatives. Ambassador Park, the council high emissary's face filled the screen, its silver features arranged in what humans had learned to recognize as stern displeasure. "Recent monitoring indicates unauthorized technological development occurring on your lunar facilities." Juwan maintained her diplomatic composure, though her heart raced. They knew about Tewu's operation. "High Emissary, perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. All Earth's developments fall within our treaty agreements. Our scans detect otherwise." The emissary's tone hardened. "The Council has determined that Earth requires additional supervision. You will allow placement of orbital peacekeeping platforms at these coordinates." A map appeared, showing 12 positions around Earth. Juwan studied the locations with growing alarm. The platforms would create a perfect weapons grid covering the entire planet. "This seems excessive," she said carefully. "I'll need to consult with Earth's governments before." "You have 24 hours to comply," the emissary interrupted. "Further debate is unnecessary. This is not a negotiation." The screen went dark. Juwon immediately encrypted a message to Taewoo. "They know. Demanding weapon platforms in orbit. Preparing rejection response. Accelerate preparations." The next day, representatives from Earth's united governments gathered via secure link. The decision was unanimous. Earth would not allow foreign weapons to be positioned around their planet. Juwon delivered their answer to the Council with diplomatic language but firm resolve. "Earth appreciates the Council's concern for our security, but we must respectfully decline the placement of external platforms in our orbit. We remain committed to peaceful cooperation and open to discussing alternative security arrangements." She expected threats or sanctions in response. She did not expect what happened next. Juwon was scheduled to return to Harmony Station after delivering Earth's answer. Her shuttle was delayed due to a minor technical issue, a fuel pump that suddenly needed replacement. She waited impatiently in the launch facility, watching the minutes tick by. The technician approached, wiping his hands on a rag. "All fixed, Ambassador. You can board now." As Juwon rose from her seat, a blinding flash lit up the sky. For a moment, everyone froze, staring through the facility's large windows. Where Harmony Station had been, an expanding ball of fire now glowed against the blackness of space. Silence fell over the launch center, broken only by the emergency alarms that began to wail seconds later. Juwon stood transfixed, her mind refusing to process what her eyes had seen. 800 people had been aboard that station. Diplomats, scientists, support staff, friends, colleagues, even 30 Council allies who had been working toward genuine cooperation. All gone in an instant. Her assistant grabbed her arm. "Ambassador, we need to get to the secure bunker. Now." As they rushed toward the underground facility, screens throughout the building broadcast the same message, a transmission being received worldwide. The Council High Emissary's face appeared, cold and unmoved. "People of Earth, your representatives have unwisely rejected our protection. The destruction of your station is regrettable but necessary. This is what happens to those who question the Council's wisdom. Your species will accept guidance or face consequences." In the bunker beneath Seoul, Juwon sat motionless as world leaders argued around her. Some advocated immediate surrender. Others called for resistance despite knowing Earth's official defenses were no match for Council technology. "They killed 800 people to make a point," Juwon finally said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Every head turned toward her. "They murdered our people because we said not yet to their demands." She stood, her diplomatic mask finally cracking to reveal cold fury beneath. This was never about protection. This was about domination, and they've just shown exactly who they are. 3 days later, a Council blockade surrounded Earth. 50 massive warships took position, their weapons aimed at major cities. All official communication with off-world colonies was cut off. The Council's message was simple: submit or be destroyed. Deep beneath the lunar surface, Admiral Taewoo Kim gathered the commanders of Earth's secret fleet. For 5 years, they had prepared for this possibility, though none had expected the Council to show its hand so brutally. "Status report," Taewoo demanded. 87 vessels combat ready, replied Fleet Commander Doyeon. "Stealth systems functioning. Weapons at full capacity. The Council doesn't appear to have detected our lunar or Mars bases." "And the special projects?" Taewoo asked. Professor Hyunjin nodded. "The countermeasures against Council technology are ready. Their shields have a vulnerability to our phase shift torpedoes, and the quantum communication system is online. They can't detect or intercept our transmissions." A side door opened, and the room fell silent as Jiwon entered. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her stride was steady as she took her place at the table. "Ambassador, Tewu acknowledged with respect. "Not anymore," she replied. "The diplomatic path is closed. I'm here as a representative of the emergency Earth government." She activated the central display, showing the Council blockade. They've positioned their fleet to intimidate, not for optimal battle formation. Their arrogance is a weakness we can exploit. The emergency government has officially activated the Earth Defense Alliance, she continued. Admiral Kim is granted full authority to command our response. Tewu stood, looking at each person around the table. For years, we prepared in secret, hoping this day would never come. The Council believes they know everything about human capabilities. They expect either surrender or a futile, disorganized resistance they can crush easily. His eyes hardened. They expect submission. Instead, they'll learn what happens when humans are cornered. He activated the tactical display. Our advantage is surprise. They don't know about our fleet or our technological developments. Once that advantage is gone, we'll be facing an enemy with vastly superior numbers. Operation Thunderstrike begins in 12 hours. Our primary objective is breaking the blockade and establishing a defensive perimeter around Earth. Secondary objective is disabling rather than destroying Council vessels where possible. "Why not destroy them when we have the chance?" asked one of the commanders. Jiwan answered, "Because not all Council species support this action. We have allies, like Reth, who took great risks to warn us, and we need to show the galaxy we're different from the Council. We fight to defend, not dominate." Tewu nodded. "Precisely. We need to demonstrate that humans can be both formidable and merciful." He looked around the room again. "Make no mistake, this is just the beginning of a difficult struggle. But today, we show the Council that humanity will not be caged." As the commanders dispersed to prepare their crews, Jiwan stood before the image of Earth, partially blocked by Council warships. "I spent years believing in their good intentions," she said quietly, "convincing others to trust them." "You couldn't have known," Tewu replied, standing beside her. "I should have seen the signs," she said. "The condescension, the restrictions always disguised as gifts, the way they studied our reactions like scientists observing specimens. We all wanted to believe in a benevolent universe," Tewu said. "But now we face reality. And we'll face it together." From hidden bases across the solar system, Earth's secret armada prepared to launch. Sleek black ships with technology the Council believed impossible for humans to develop. Crews trained in absolute secrecy for years. Weapons designed specifically to counter Council defenses. In 12 hours, the galaxy would learn that humans were not easily conquered. The line had been crossed, and Earth would answer in kind. The first Council vessels detected the approaching ships too late. Their sensors registered only empty space until Earth's armada was almost upon them. 112 sleek, black vessels powered by technologies the Council believed impossible for humans to develop suddenly appeared, having launched from hidden bases across the solar system. On the bridge of the EDS Defiance, Admiral Tewu Kim stood tall as his flagship led the attack formation. Around him, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, faces tense but determined. The view screen showed the Council blockade. 50 massive warships arranged in a sphere around Earth. "All vessels report ready, Admiral," announced Commander Ji-hoon, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Tewu nodded. "Open a channel to the Council flagship." The screen shifted to show the Council commander, a tall being with metallic scales and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its expression registered shock at seeing a human military vessel that shouldn't exist. "This is Admiral Tewu Kim of the Earth Defense Armada," came the transmission. "Your blockade is illegitimate, and your attack on our station was an act of war. You will withdraw immediately." The Council commander's face shifted from surprise to contempt. "Admiral, your appearance is unexpected, but ultimately meaningless. Your primitive vessels cannot hope to." His transmission ended abruptly as the first quantum torpedoes struck the nearest Council ship. The weapons, developed in secret by Professor Gunjan's team, phased through standard Council shields as if they weren't there, materializing only when they reached the hull. "All ships, execute attack pattern Hydra," ordered Tewu. "Remember your training. They outgun us, but we move faster, and they can't predict our tactics." Earth ships moved in patterns no Council tactical computer could predict. The human vessels broke formation, reformed in impossible configurations, and executed maneuvers that defied conventional space combat doctrine. Council tactical systems, programmed over centuries of fighting predictable enemies, failed to adapt. On the bridge of the EDS Swift, Captain Minsu watched as a Council cruiser twice the size of his vessel fired energy weapons that missed by kilometers. "Their targeting algorithms can't handle our evasion patterns," he told his crew. "Maintain randomized course changes. Prepare gravity lenses." The gravity weapons, another Earth innovation, twisted space itself, creating localized distortions that wrenched Council ships out of position, disrupting their formations and causing their own weapons to miss targets. Aboard the Council flagship, High Commander Drex watched in growing alarm as his blockade formation crumbled. 10 Council vessels already showed significant damage, and the humans were targeting propulsion and weapons systems rather than attempting to destroy the ships outright. "Impossible," he hissed. "Their technology is beyond their development stage. They'd violated Council protocols." "Sir," his second reported, "our tactical computers cannot establish firing solutions. Their movement patterns follow no known logic." "Then use manual targeting," Drex raged. "They are merely humans." As Drex struggled to contain the human assault, a junior officer named Reth worked quickly at an auxiliary console. No one paid attention to the Nath in the chaos. Exactly as planned. Reth had provided crucial information to Earth forces weeks before, and now transmitted real-time updates on shield frequencies and command system vulnerabilities directly to the Earth fleet. Years of resentment against Council oppression fueled the aliens' betrayal, along with growing respect for humanity's determination. Aboard the Defiance, Tewu received Reth's transmission. "All vessels, adjust quantum torpedoes to these frequencies. Target these coordinates on the Council flagship." The next volley struck with devastating precision, disabling the flagship's main power, but leaving life support intact. Drex's vessel drifted, weapons offline, as Earth ships surrounded it. "This is impossible," Drex whispered, watching helplessly as his mighty blockade faltered against ships that shouldn't exist, using technology humans shouldn't possess. After 4 hours of battle, 38 Council vessels had been disabled. The remaining 12 broke formation and retreated beyond the moon, regrouping to assess the shocking defeat. In Earth orbit, cheers erupted across the human fleet, but Tewu remained solemn. "This is only the beginning," he told his officers. "The Council will return with a larger force. We need to prepare for the next phase." 2 weeks later, Earth's defenses had been significantly enhanced. The captured Council vessels yielded valuable technology and intelligence. Most importantly, they provided FTL communication devices that allowed humans to contact other species subjugated by the Council. The intelligence also revealed the Council's next move, a massive Armada gathering at Alpha Centauri, the nearest star system to Earth with a Council presence. In the war room beneath Lunar Base Alpha, Tewu and Juan studied the intelligence reports. 300 vessels, Juan said gravely. "We can't match those numbers." "We don't need to," Tewu replied. "Reth has made contact with resistance groups on 17 Council-controlled worlds. They're ready to support us." "Can we trust them?" Juan asked. "We have little choice," Tewu answered, "but I believe we can. They've suffered under Council rule far longer than we have." The plan they developed was audacious. While the Council assembled its Armada at Alpha Centauri, expecting humans to remain defensive, the Earth fleet would strike first, not at the Armada itself, but at the supply lines and command infrastructure supporting it. "They think conventionally," Tewu explained to his commanders. "They expect us to defend Earth directly. Instead, we'll attack their ability to wage war." 3 days later, the Earth fleet made its first FTL jump beyond the solar system. 50 ships bound for Alpha Centauri, while the remainder stayed to defend Earth. It was humanity's first coordinated military action among the stars. They emerged from hyperspace at precisely calculated points around the Centauri system, catching the Council Armada in disarray. Supply ships were undefended, command vessels separated from their escorts. All ships, execute Operation Thunderclap, ordered Tewu from the Defiance. Earth vessels struck key targets with surgical precision, avoiding population centers and focusing on military infrastructure. Meanwhile, on 3 Council ships, resistance fighters led by Reth's allies disabled command systems from within, causing confusion in the Council ranks. The Council commander attempted to organize a response, but human ships refused to engage directly, striking and vanishing, reappearing where least expected. The battle lasted less than a day, but its outcome stunned the galaxy. The Council Armada, meant to crush Earth once and for all, found itself unable to launch its attack. Half its supply ships destroyed, command structure in chaos, and key vessels disabled by sabotage from within. At the Battle of Alpha Centauri, the Council suffered its first major defeat in 9 centuries. News spread across the galaxy through channels the Council couldn't control. Humanity had not only survived, but had taken the fight to their oppressors. In the aftermath, Tewu stood on the observation deck of the Defiance, watching distant stars. Juwan joined him, her diplomatic skills now focused on building alliances with other species. "We've changed everything," she said quietly. "For thousands of years, the Council has controlled the narrative, that they protect, that they guide, that they alone can maintain galactic order. And now?" Tewu asked. "Now there's an alternative," she replied. "Not just for humans, but for every species they've subjugated. We've shown the galaxy that resistance is possible." Tewu nodded, his expression serious. "The real war is just beginning. They'll recover from this defeat, adapt their tactics. And so will we," Juwan said with quiet confidence. "That's what they never understood about humans. We don't just fight, we evolve." As the Earth fleet prepared to return home, messages arrived from across the galaxy. Communications from species long thought totally loyal to the Council, offering alliance, intelligence, support. The age of Council dominance was ending. A new balance of power had begun to form among the stars, with humanity as its unexpected catalyst. In the darkness between worlds, a new hope spread, propelled by the simple truth that even the mightiest empire could be challenged when it crossed the line. The Earth Armada's unexpected victories forced the Council to negotiate. After 3 major battles and dozens of smaller engagements, even the most arrogant Council species could no longer deny the reality. Humans would not be subjugated. What had begun as a simple pacification action had become the greatest military embarrassment in Council history. The Council's high chamber on Vexillus Prime had remained unchanged for millennia. Tiered seating arranged in perfect circles housed representatives from the 27 ruling species. At the center stood the Speaker's platform, where supplicants and petitioners would normally stand to receive the Council's judgment. Today, Juwan Park did not stand on that platform. Instead, she entered through the main doors, flanked by Admiral Tewu Kim and representatives from 17 worlds that had united with Earth. They walked as equals, not as petitioners. The Council Premier, a being of crystalline structure who had personally ordered the destruction of Earth's space station months earlier, watched with undisguised displeasure. "This chamber is for Council members and their invited guests," he announced, voice echoing. "You have been granted an audience, not membership privileges." Juwan smiled thinly. "We are not here for an audience, Premier. We are here to establish new terms." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Such boldness was unprecedented. "You have achieved some unexpected military successes," the Premier acknowledged reluctantly. "But do not overestimate your position. The Council has ruled for 50,000 years. Your species has barely mastered space travel." Tewu stepped forward, Yet your fleets avoid engaging ours directly now. Curious behavior for such a powerful organization. A representative from the Krell species, known for their directness, spoke up. Let us dispense with posturing. What do you want? Humans, territory, resources, technology. Name your price for peace. We don't want anything from you, Juan replied, her voice carrying across the chamber. We want something for all species in the galaxy. She activated a holoprojector, displaying a document in multiple languages. This is the Charter of the Interstellar Alliance, an alternative to Council domination, a union of equals, where no species dictates the development of others. Preposterous, the Premier scoffed. The lesser species require guidance. Without our oversight, they would destroy themselves, as humans nearly did before we intervened. Did we? Juan challenged. Or did you simply tell that story to justify control? Just as you've told similar stories about every species you've subjugated. She gestured to the representatives beside her, beings of diverse form and origin. The Volari were told they needed protection from solar radiation. The Nath were told their genetic structure was unstable. The Taraxi were told their technology would lead to dimensional collapse. All lies designed to create dependency. A council member from an insectoid species called the Exer rose. These accusations are baseless. We have brought peace and stability to the galaxy. At what cost? Reth stepped forward, the small Nath drawing surprised murmurs. Many recognized the council junior diplomat who had disappeared months earlier. I accessed the restricted archives. For 50,000 years, the council has deliberately stunted the development of protected species. Genetic tampering, technological limitations, cultural manipulation, all to prevent competition. The chamber erupted in shouting. Some council members demanded Reth's arrest. Others called for immediate military action against Earth. A few remained silent, exchanging glances that suggested Reth's words confirmed long-held suspicions. The Premier struck a resonating crystal, restoring order. These are serious accusations, but they change nothing. The Council remains the legitimate authority in this galaxy. No longer, Juan said firmly. The old order ends today. She raised her voice, addressing not just the Premier, but every being in the chamber. Earth proposes a new interstellar alliance, one of equals, not masters and servants. She gestured to the representatives beside her. 17 worlds have already joined us. More have indicated their support. We do not seek to replace one dominion with another. We seek to create a genuine community of species, each free to develop according to their own nature. The Premier's crystalline form darkened with anger. And if we refuse this proposal? Admiral Tewu's expression remained impassive. The recent conflicts have demonstrated that military solutions are no longer viable. Additionally, we have shared certain technical capabilities with our alliance partners. The implication was clear. The Council could no longer rely on technological superiority. A Volari representative from the Council side spoke hesitantly. Perhaps some accommodation might be reached. A transitional period. The terms are non-negotiable, Juan stated. Full recognition of the Interstellar Alliance, removal of all limitations placed on member species, open sharing of critical technologies. The Council may retain its authority over its core worlds, but the era of expansion and subjugation is over. Over the next 3 days, negotiations continued in smaller chambers. Some Council species threatened war. Others recognized the changing reality and sought position within the new order. Most significantly, 3 Council member species formally withdrew from the Council and requested alliance membership. The Council's millennia of unquestioned domination collapsed in weeks, not through total defeat, but through the realization that their foundation of lies and manipulation could no longer stand against the truth. 6 months later, the Interstellar Alliance headquarters opened in a neutral system midway between Earth and former Council space. A magnificent station constructed with technologies from a dozen worlds orbited a blue giant star, symbolizing the new balance of power. In the observatory dome atop the station, Tehu joined Juan as they watched ships from dozens of worlds arrive for the inaugural conference. Vessels of every size and design approached the station, some familiar council models, others unique to their worlds of origin, and prominently among them, the sleek black ships of Earth's Armada. "They thought our isolation made us weak," Juan said, watching the stars and the ships moving between them. "Instead, it made us different enough to change everything." Tehu nodded, his normally stern expression softened by the magnitude of what they had achieved. "Today marks humanity's true first contact, not as subjects, but as equals. Not just for humans," added Reth, joining them at the viewport. The Nath wore the insignia of the Alliance Diplomatic Corps. "For all of us who lived under Council protection, this is liberation." Below them, the Alliance Council chamber filled with representatives from 32 worlds. Unlike the hierarchical arrangement of the old Council, this chamber was designed with a circular floor where all representatives stood at the same level. No platforms, no tiers, no physical reminders of supremacy. "There will be challenges," Tehu acknowledged. "Some Council worlds still resist the new order. Border disputes will arise. Cultural differences will create misunderstandings." "Of course," Juan agreed. "True cooperation is never easy, but it's genuine, unlike the false peace of domination." A communications officer approached with respect. "Ambassador Park, Admiral Kim, the opening ceremony is about to begin." As they made their way to the chamber, they passed representatives from worlds that had been enemies months before. Species that had never been allowed direct contact now exchanged ideas freely. Scientists from Earth collaborated with scholars from ancient civilizations, each bringing unique perspectives. The inaugural address was given not by Juan or any human, but by a representative from one of the smallest Alliance members, a species that had been protected by the Council for over 30,000 years. "For too long we were told what we could become," the delegate said, voice trembling with emotion. "Today we begin discovering what we might be when free to choose our own path." Around them, a new galactic order was taking shape, one where Earth's voice would never be silenced again, but also one where no single world would dominate others. The balance would be difficult to maintain, the conflicts challenging to resolve, but for the first time in 50 millennia, the future of the galaxy belonged to all who inhabited it. As the ceremony concluded, Tehu looked out at the assembled representatives and allowed himself a rare smile. "When the Galactic Council crossed the line," he said quietly, "they never imagined they were creating their own replacement." "That's the thing about lines," Juan replied. "Once crossed, there's no going back, only forward into something new."